So, Deepa, your talk resonated with me and made me think that it wasn't just about girls in India. It made me think that actually what you had to say was also about girls and women like me, born in a Chinese culture. But also, now I am an immigrant in New Zealand. I'm a Kiwi New Zealander. And it occurs to me that even though the Indian culture has differences from the Chinese culture, and the Chinese culture and the Indian culture are certainly very different from the Kiwi culture, it makes me realise that they're all similar in the way that they train girls and women to be quiet. And so it made me reflect about women who have feet in two parts of the world. Because you see, I was born in Taiwan and I was the youngest daughter in a family of 4 girls. So by dint of birth order and by dint of gender, I had no right to speak. I was the bottom of the pecking order. And then on top of that, when I was about 6.5, my parents decided to immigrate to New Zealand because my father was a fabulous Olympics gymnastics coach and they recruited him here to train the New Zealand gymnastics team. And when I came to New Zealand, I could not speak English. So actually, I physically could not speak to anybody here. But once I overcame that, I realized that by looking like I did, no one expected me to speak. They didn't expect me to have an opinion. And they certainly did not expect me to speak up. So I learned from a very young age that I was to keep quiet, that people were superior to me, and that because I was diaspora, I wasn't from here and I didn't look like a Kiwi, that it was always going to be much harder to be taken seriously and for people to listen to me. And so that made it harder to speak up. The other problem I have, of course, is that there is a wonderful stereotype of a nation woman. We are quiet. We like to blend into the wallpaper. We like to serve other people. We are submissive and we are not leadership material. The difficulty, of course, is that I have never fitted that stereotype. I didn't when I was a young girl, and I certainly have not in my professional career. I am the first lawyer or the second lawyer in my family. My sister, Professor Mindy Chen-Wishart, and I decided that we would dominate the legal world. So I went to Harvard and studied constitutional and administrative law, and she went to Oxford, where she specialises in contract and restitution, and is now the Dean of the Law Faculty of Oxford University. I am a legal warrior. I spend my life advocating and speaking for people who cannot fight for themselves. And so evading stereotypes has been part of what I have sought to do with my life. And it's partly why I also set up Super Diverse Women, because I realised that actually women who are from diaspora actually have a double disadvantage. They have gender and they don't look like everybody else. And as a consequence of that, they have a shared experience. And that shared experience is that they are constantly underestimated. They're also very tired women because they tell me that they have to mimic and adapt, and so because they don't want to stand out. And of course, that's difficult when you look like this. So having said that, there are some great advantages of being a diaspora woman. You see, people are never quite sure how to take you. You look Chinese and you speak like a Kiwi. So they're not sure how they should treat you and what you're going to come across like, and you should milk that mercilessly. I did. I made sure that I did not marry somebody who was from the same birth culture as me. I'm married to an English immigrant with Scottish parents. And as a consequence of that, I have had enormous freedom in my life to reinvent myself, to accept those parts of my culture that have been fantastic. There is a superpower in being Chinese, and there is a superpower in not being Chinese. But all I know is that coming to New Zealand has had great advantages, and I've appreciated that. But, you know, even though the Kiwi culture is, you call a spade, and it is very different, I find that in many ways it's similar in telling women that they should be quiet. You see, New Zealand is a really small country. We're all on a small passenger liner, so you can't really annoy anybody, because if you do, you'll walk around the boat and you'll meet them again and they'll do you in. So you get taught that you have to be agreeable. And this is particularly important if you're a woman, because if you're not agreeable, what you discover very soon in life is that speaking out, which may be seen as career enhancing or leadership ability or forward-sightedness or articulateness in the male gender, will often be seen in the woman gender as, gosh, she talks too much. Oh, there she goes again. She's a bit aggressive, isn't she? She just doesn't know when to shut up. Why doesn't she just toe the line? I, as well as being a practicing lawyer and a law professor, an adjunct professor, am also a director on the Bank of New Zealand board. And one of the things that I did as chair of the Super Diversity Institute was I did a diverse thinking capability audit of New Zealand boardrooms. And what I've discovered is that New Zealand has this wonderful culture of agreeability. And so actually, if you ask the question, do you have diverse thinking on your board? Everyone says, oh, yes, we do, and we value it. But then if you ask the question, do you agree all the time? You can see that everyone stops and chews on their pencil, because they think, actually, it's much more efficient if we just agree all the time. And actually, we don't actually like people who are disagreeable. But you can't actually have a diverse view if you're all going to think the same thing. Because if you all think the same thing, why are most of you there? So what I've decided is this, that in life, if you're going to make a difference, you can't be agreeable all the time. Now, there's no point in being disagreeable for the hell of it. We all know people like that, and they are not effective. Nobody listens to them because they do say, oh, there they go again. So it is important to think about when you're going to, as Deepa says, when you're going to chup and when you are not going to chup. You have to be thoughtful about when you're going to be really able to be influential in what you say. Look, you don't want to live life as a war. You know, life is not like deep water diving. There are no extra points for difficulty. Having said that, though, there's never going to be the right time to be disagreeable. There are always going to be people who will fight you. Some of them will fight you because they underestimate you. The other half will fight you because they're damned frightened of you. You know that all major changes in society are created by people speaking out and protesting. We're experiencing the Black Lives Matter movement now. And people say, well, you know, it's not done in the right way. Look, it's never done in the right way. And it's never the right time. But sometimes you just have to go. So my advice to you, prepare to speak. Make sure that you are well briefed, well versed. Strike first. It is often best just to speak right at the start, because whatever you say, I think you're a genius, because you are brave enough to speak. And sometimes if you wait until the end, they'll cut you off and the opportunity will be gone. Because the one thing you can be certain of is that there will always be pushback and there will always be people who don't want you to speak. And sometimes, as Deepa shows you, those people are those who love you the most. They are the closest to you. You know, I was brought up to keep my head down, to not complain, never fight, don't be difficult, just swallow it, walk away. And that was from the people who loved me the most. They didn't want to see me hurt. They know that rebels often die. They know that outspoken people, as Confucius say, are like tall trees. Tall trees, strong wind. You want no wind? Then be a stump. Because let me tell you, there isn't much wind down there. So it is difficult. And what I've discovered is that I've had to navigate all the ways in which women get told to shut up in both the Chinese culture and in the Kiwi culture. But the one thing I have discovered is this. You can be chup, but if you're going to be chup, you're never going to change the world. And in order to change the world, you need to be disagreeable. Now, there's no point being disagreeable unless there's a really good reason for being disagreeable. In my culture, they say, 不要讲话, or else they just say, shh, which is the universal way of just cutting people off. But what I'm saying to you is this: don't be chup. You decide when you're chup. You decide when you're not. And remember, there is power in your voice, and you must not squander the experience that you've had. You've had experiences of discrimination. You've had experiences of people telling you to shh, 不要讲话. And because of that, you recognize when other people are being suffocated, when their wings are being broken, when they're being put in a cage, when they're being drowned by thunder, when they're being made to eat dirt. And you can facilitate other people speaking. You can ask them a nice question. You can say, excuse me, but she was trying to talk. Or you can speak on their behalf. So do not waste the experiences that you've had. I've spent quite a bit of my life being told to be chub, and I am not going to waste that experience. I know what it feels like, and I know what it's like to be suffocated. I also know that I was born to make a difference, and I was born to speak. And when there is a good reason to do so, I will speak, because that is the only way to change the world into the one that I want to live in. Thank you.